Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be discussing a couple of modifications I made to my 2014 Chevy Caprice PPV while I was waiting for parts to show up to fix the failed fuel pump, which I have another video on the channel for that, so go check that out. I'll have a link in the upper corner. But I'll be talking about enabling the HVAC afterflow feature, which I did a while back, but I'll document it for you so you know what to do. I swapped out the XM radio antenna I just installed in the vehicle for one that is a modular style that has a connector right at the base of the antenna. And that way when I get the body painted on the vehicle, I'll not have to cut a cord or anything. And I swapped out the front sway bar bushings because there's a lot of knocking noise coming out of the vehicle, and a fellow Caprice owner that works on the Caprices at his job said that those tend to be the source of a lot of knocking noises. Here's a picture of the XM radio antenna I just installed a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't checked out the video, I'll have a link up in the upper right hand corner to check that out. And I didn't like the installation because it has a single cord from the antenna all the way up to the radio head unit. When I have this vehicle painted at some point, hopefully, I'll need to remove the antenna, and I didn't want to have to cut the cord. So I wanted to get a modular antenna or with a short cord on it. So I ended up finding part number 25775256, which is basically the same style as far as the external appearance, but it uses a regular mount underneath the roof material to mount to the roof, and then it's got a short pigtail coming out that converts from this style connector. I have an adapter going from this style connector over to SMB, going up to the back end of the radio head unit. All the parts that I end up using I'll have down in the description section of the video, so go check those out. Those are affiliate links, so if you decide to use them, they'll help me out. I would greatly appreciate it, but at no extra cost to you. So I got this installed and it looks much cleaner, and I ended up occupying one of the holes from the police lights, so that solves one problem going forward. And it looks much cleaner, and I didn't have to share the same hole that the AM/FM antenna was using for its cord. I just kept them separated, but they run in the same general area in the headliner. The next set of parts that I replaced while I was waiting for my fuel pump parts are the front sway bar bushings, and the reason being, I was working with a fellow Caprice owner. We were updating his body control module, and he told me he works on Caprices at his job. He runs into the situation where there's a front suspension noise, and a lot of times it's the front sway bar bushings. As you can see in the picture, it doesn't look like they're that bad. They weren't lubricated very well, so unfortunately, but I pulled them out, ordered these replacement ones for the 26mm front sway bar on the Caprice, which is similar to or identical to the Chevy SS sedan. Installed them on both sides. I couldn't really test them until I got the fuel pump parts replaced and functional, and I'm very impressed that it removed about 70% or so of the front end noises that I'm hearing. Of course, I still have other suspension parts to work on. The one side effect of this was the splash guard that I removed on the driver's side here. I don't seem to have one on the passenger side, but this one basically started falling apart as soon as I touched it. So with 111,000 miles, I guess I gotta expect something, but couldn't find the part number for this on a Caprice at all. 14 to 17 Caprice doesn't, parts charts don't list it at all, so I looked at a 14 to 17 Chevy SS sedan, found those part numbers since they're virtually identical, I hope, in this particular case. Order those parts, and I'll have those in the next week or so, and you'll see that in a future video. Splash guard's important because it's down there by the alternator. You don't want water splashing up and hitting the alternator all the time, so that's why it's important to get that replaced, in my opinion. Have you ever had an air conditioning system in your vehicle that gives that musty, moldy smell after you run the vehicle's AC, drive the vehicle, park it, the system gets warm, you come back out and start it up again, and the AC isn't cold yet, and you get that musty, moldy smell? Well, that's what this particular afterflow feature is trying to avoid. It's a feature in the 14 through 17 Chevy SS sedan, and also at least the 14 through 17 Caprice PPV. Not sure if it's there in the 11 to 13. Someone would have to check that on their own. I don't have a vehicle to test that on. But it's a feature that is present in the HVAC control module. It will run the blower motors at specified times after the engine's been turned off to help dry the evaporator core, to reduce the water on the evaporator core, so that it will help hopefully reduce the microbial growth that takes place on the evaporator core. If you've already got the smell, you need to get it cleaned first, and then you can have this feature enabled. And that's what I did with my 15 SS sedan. I had the smell showing up, they cleaned the AC system, and then turn on this feature, and it seemed to block it from occurring again. So if the HVAC afterblow feature is enabled in the HVAC control module, it will require certain conditions to be met during the normal use of the vehicle, such as the vehicle must be turned off, the outside air must be at least 11 Celsius or 52 Fahrenheit when the compressor was last used, although I saw that this was documented as 21 Celsius and 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the SS sedan. So I'm not sure which one's right, but that's what I found for the Caprice. The AC compressor must have operated for more than 2 minutes before the ignition was turned off, and the system battery voltage must be at least or above 12 volts. So if those conditions have been met, the blower motor will operate at low speed and will operate in sequence blow up to 5 times, where it will be off for 7 to 11 minutes, and then the blower will operate for 20 to 60 seconds. Those cycles will help dry off the evaporator core and hopefully avoid the microbial growth, and thus prevent the smell from coming out of the vents when you run the AC. Now let's see how easy it is to enable this feature in the HVAC control module if you have a scan tool that can perform that function. We're going to take a look at how to set the afterblow configuration setting for the HVAC control module using my Autel Maxisys MS906 scan tool. And it's pretty easy. It's toggling it on and off. As long as your scan tool has bidirectional communications and supports special functions, including the special function that you're trying to toggle, which this particular one does, or if you use the AC Delco TDS GDS2 software, you should be able to toggle this feature on and off. So the whole point of afterblow is to make sure that the evaporator in the HVAC section of the vehicle in the interior is as dry as possible, so that any condensation doesn't remain on there. It tries to dry it off. There's a long list of conditions for that afterblow feature actually to turn on the blower motors to try to dry that off. We'll talk about that in a different part of the video. This is how you go in and toggle the feature on or off. When I first purchased the 17 SS sedan, I asked them to turn this on because I learned with my 15 SS sedan that I previously owned that this was an important thing to have on, since there was a moldy, musty smell coming out of my HVAC after about a year of ownership. They cleaned out the system and turned this feature on, and then when I bought the 17, I requested the feature be turned on. They said yes, because it's literally 5 minutes or less of shop time to do this. And when I got the Caprice, I went in with my scan tool, checked it out, and sure enough, this feature was there as well. So I made sure that I turned it on to keep the HVAC as dry as possible, so I don't get that mold or musty smell coming out of my Caprice's HVAC system. So we go into the auto scan. I'm doing this also as a follow-up to my fuel pump replacement that I just went through, making sure there's no stored codes here and anything. I just filled up the tank fully to make sure that the fuel pump is fully submerged in gasoline, and so far it's been running just fine. Also confirmed that the level sensor on that fuel pump assembly is actually reporting a full tank, so that's looking good. And I just go in here to do a full scan anyway, make sure I don't find anything else unbeknownst to me while driving. And there's nothing being reported, so we're going to go down to the HVAC control module, which is right here. And then we're going to go into special function, and you can have it learn the actuator, go through the actuator learn procedure, which is it runs all the blend doors and learns where each position is. So you can relearn that. So we're not going through that today because it already has done this, and it tends to do this at certain times automatically anyway. But the afterblow configuration is what we're going after, and simply a on or off setting. I've already turned this on in the past. I want to show you how quick and easy it is to toggle one way or the other. You use the scan tool to say turn it off, it's off. You want to turn it on, it's on. But this is how you get it turned on. So if you have a 14 through 17 Caprice, I don't know if this exists in the 11 through 13, but definitely the 14 to 17, since this is extremely similar to the SS sedan of those same years, 14 to 17. You might want to consider this if you have a moldy, musty smell coming out of it. You know, get it cleaned out properly and then have this feature turned on. And it might be a good preventative measure. Like I said, when I bought my 17 SS sedan, I asked them to turn it on. Never had a problem with moldy, musty smells coming out of the HVAC at all. So when I got the Caprice, I turned this on. So that's how easy it is. We'll just back out of this, and there's nothing else to do. Go through the steps that you would normally do to disconnect your scan tool at this point. So hopefully the information about my XM radio antenna change, the sway bar bushing change and the HVAC afterblow configuration have been informative to you. If it has been, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification to be notified when I upload new videos to the channel. Make sure you leave a question or comment down in the comments section, and check out the description section for links to the items in this video. And please consider using the affiliate links. It helps my company get some commission off those purchases, but it doesn't cost you an extra thing. So thanks for coming to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.